Beth?
Okay, thank you, Ted and Michael, also for your leadership of the team. So as they were stated, the registration period has ended, and you will only receive a claims form if you completed the registration form. Access to the claims form will be either online or on paper forms. And as this process becomes finalized, you will be made aware which way you will get your claims form. So what we are speaking about tonight, what we will cover today, is this claims process that Michael and Ted were speaking about, that while we're waiting for the data to be coalesced at Archer, the claims administrator, we are going to go through the process that you will go through with our help to submit your claim. So first of all, we're going to turn this over to Leslie to talk about the claims form.
Thanks, Beth. So as Mike and Ted said, congratulations, you got through the registration process. We learned a new computer system. We learned lots of paper. We had a lot going on, and I think everyone is very proud that we got through that 60-day process. There is a lot going on as we are preparing, and as the claims administrators are preparing for the claims process. We just want to give you an overview. All right, this is going to be recorded. We're going to do this again once the claim process actually starts. The one thing I think all of us want everyone to know is there are more forms to do in the claims process, but we are here to help you. If you've been on the website, that's half the battle. You've already figured out how to do that. So we don't want people to worry. We're gonna go over a lot of things tonight, but we don't want you to worry. We are here to help you. And remember, if you start to think this process is too complicated, remember what it's for. It's to make sure that the right people who suffered, who were exposed, actually receive the funds. So don't get discouraged. We're going to have the office open again. We've got the call line open again. We're here to help you. So let's go ahead and get started with the claim form. So luckily, everything that you put on your registration form transfers to the claim form. So if you've already filled out your name, your social security number, your date of birth, if you're filling it out on behalf of your child or your parent or someone who's deceased that you are representing, all that information moves over. If you have an attorney and you've already indicated who the attorney is, that information moves over. You will have to sign it again. If you did not put all that information in, if you were missing a social security number for your child and you've had to order it, we understand. When you get it, we'll fill it in. If you had problems and you got just the bare information in before the website, you had issues with that, don't worry, we can correct that in the claims process. And that's what we'll do. The big thing that's different is the settlement category. And all right, let's take a look. So this is the claim form. This looks very much like, if you did a hard copy, it looks very much like the registration form. Go ahead, Beth. Okay, so let's go to what's different. Actually, can you skip ahead, Beth, and show that page, the category page? So this is a portion of the claim form, and it may be difficult to read depending on the size of your computer, or if you're listening on the phone. You can go to the Flint Water Justice website and you can see this. But I just want those of you who can see it to kind of take a look at the format of it. And then we're going to go through a few details. So skip back a page for me, Beth. Settlement categories. Many of you have heard us talk about this when we're talking about the registration, or if we've had individual calls with you, we've talked about settlement categories. The important thing when you are moving into the claims form is 27 of these categories. The first thing you need to decide, the first thing we have to help you figure out is, how old were you when you were first exposed? If you're doing it on behalf of a child, how old was that child when they were first exposed to the water? Because that is going to determine the variety of categories that you'll choose from. So for instance, if your child was 6 years old or younger, that literally means the day before their 7th birthday, you're going to look at categories 1 through 7. If your child was 7 through 11 years old, when they were first exposed, you're going to look at categories 8 through 14. If your child was 12 to 17, when they were first exposed to the water, you're going to look at categories 15 through 21. And now anyone who is over 18 at first exposure, categories 22 through 27. And there are a couple of special caveats in there. For instance, if you were diagnosed with Legionnaire's disease, there is one specific category that you will check. If you unfortunately miscarried and you believe, or your doctor believes that it was related to the exposure, there is a specific category for that. If you had a child early, if you had a child who weighed below a certain amount, there's a specific category for that. If you had an infant and they were formula fed using the water from the Flint water treatment plant, there's a category for that. So there are details that will matter. And this is something that you all can start thinking about, start documenting now. How old were you at first exposure? If you're doing it on behalf of someone else, how old were they at first exposure? That's the key thing to start with. If you owned property, were responsible for bills, if you were a business owner, if you lost business, there's categories 28, 29, and 30. You can be in more than one category. And Channing is going to talk to you about how we handle more than one category. But you can be over 18 when you were first exposed. You could own property. You could also own a business. If you'll think back to the registration form, those first 4 boxes that you could check from, that's really where the settlement categories come into play. And that leads us to the next document, which Beth, I'll turn it back over to you now. Go ahead. And I pretty much covered all that. Actually, let me speak to one thing. And we may cover it again, but I think it's important enough to talk about. Many of you have asked questions about medical records or injury. Here's the thing that's important about that. If you suffered a physical injury that you believe is related to the water exposure, and you went to a medical facility, you saw a doctor, you went to a clinic, you went to a hospital, and you were treated for that, then we need to consider getting medical records. If you suffered at home because you had rashes or you lost hair or something that you believe to be related, but you didn't seek medical treatment for it, then there's no medical record for you to worry about having to get. But that's something that you want to talk to, someone in our group, and that's why we're going to be here. There are some nuances to it, but generally speaking, think about it that way. If you suffered for something physically that you believe was related to the water, but you did not seek treatment, then there's no medical record for you to worry about. If you did, then we need to talk about how to help you get it. And verification. This is just signing. This is, if you did it electronically, you signed at the end, the e-signature. If you did a hard copy, you signed at the end. And I think that gets us to.
So that covers the form. Thank you, Leslie.